I just always am so curious to just continuously learn more about the mind, the body, the soul, how our spirit affects our body, how our thoughts affect our body, all of that, like all of those connective tissues and embodiment of things, like that's what gets me so excited.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. We are not medical professionals and do not provide medical advice. Consult a healthcare provider for any health concerns. Opinions expressed are not a substitute for professional medical guidance.
Welcome to the Optimize We podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay O'Neill, and I'm super excited to kick off this series of interviews and biohacking truths without the BS with you. Hello and welcome to the Optimize We podcast. I'm Lindsay O'Neill, your host, and today I am joined by one of my favorite humans making huge waves in the fitness and wellness and spiritual realm. My dear friend, Lavinia Errico, welcome so much to our podcast today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Lindsay. Congratulations on these podcasts you're doing. It's amazing.
It's been so wonderful to hear people's stories about how they are optimizing their own health. But you have a unique perspective because you've helped millions of people optimize their health throughout your career. So I wanted to interview you today because you're such an influential person, but you've had so many different facets of your life and career that have led you to something that I think is really, really fun.
Thank you. I love what I do. I love what I do. It fills my heart. And I think that's the most important thing, is that at some point, like, you have to know, like, what is it that makes you feel so alive? Like, what makes you get so excited to jump out of bed every morning and just share? So for me, it's always about sharing what I do with other people. And that's why I think I've stayed this person who's like continuously curious. I'm like the person, like, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more, but like in a good way, not in a greedy way. Like, I want more knowledge. I want to learn more. I want to understand how my body moves. I want to understand, when I get in a funk, like how can I get out of it? Like, I just always am so curious to just continuously learn more about the mind, the body, the soul, how our spirit affects our body, how our thoughts affect our body, all of that, like all of those connective tissues and embodiment of things, like that's what gets me so excited.
That is the true definition of optimization. It's
Mm.
being a truth seeker, it's being a sponge that's never full. And I think that's how we originally first connected. Now, a lot of people who are listening might know you as the woman who helped to create Equinox, which
Mhm.
is a huge business, right? So you created this gym. You made it sexy for people to get out of their homes and to go to a gym. Equinox was like kind of like the first cool place to go and work out, right?
Well, I have to tell you something. We didn't get them out of their home at that time. We had to get them out of happy hour, because
Ah,
in that year, people went from work to happy hour. So I always say, like, our biggest competition was like 2-for-1 drinks and and little hot dogs, like, because that's what people did, they would literally go work, happy hour, and then out to dinner. And then they would be like completely wasted and go home. Like, that's what New York City was about,
yeah.
So we had to make it sexy. Like, we had to make it a place where people wanted to go, like I said, we're competing with the bar. We're competing
Right.
with like pickup places, and we're picking up with that energy and that vibe. And so it was like, so we had to make it fun. Like we had to make the classes so much fun, like every single detail we had. Like we had to make sure that when they were in the room, the lighting made them look good. That the music felt like they were just in a nightclub dancing, and that the teachers that we put on weren't just wonderful technicians, but that they knew how to bring the party. They knew how to bring the party, and then also how to stack the room. I had to
Yeah.
make sure that I had the right front line. Like I would be calling people, hey, are you going to come tonight? It didn't just happen organically. Like you had to work it. Like you had to constantly work to make sure you had all the right people. You knew you had the ones that were yelling in the front, and it's just, it took something. But I mean, thankfully, I love, 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 love what I did. And my brothers love what they did. And we just love what we did. So it helps. It just helps when you feel it in your heart that you just love it. It never felt like work for me. Like,
Yeah.
even though I was, pretty much, in the gym every morning by like 7 o'clock, and we
Wow.
didn't leave till about 9 o'clock, and but you loved it, and you were, it's at 5:30 we'd say showtime, all hands on deck. We're ready to, that was our peak hours, from 5:30 to about 8 o'clock, and all hands on deck. And we were in there to greet the members, and create the energy, create the vibe, make sure that it stayed, because if not, you would have these lulls that would kind of happen. And we, wanted to make sure it was
It was
constantly,
pumping.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was pumping, baby.
Yeah. And so during this time, this is like the mid 90s, later 90s when you guys
It
were.
was actually in the early 90s. We opened our first, we opened up our first facility outside of New York City. Um, I guess, some people might say that was that was the one that we kind of had our test, our
Yeah.
little run.
Yeah.
And that went really well, honestly. And then we opened up the Equinox. I always get confused if it was 1990, 91, like around
And that
there.
was the one on Lexington Avenue?
No, our
No.
first one was on 76 in Amsterdam, the
So
Upper
I,
West.
I grew up in New York City, and I was in high school in the 90s, and I remember actually because I remember I lived on Roosevelt Island, and I would take the tram over and then get on the bus and go to high school. And I
Oh,
remember when the first Equinox opened. Yeah, it was like 70 something, right?
76 in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Yeah, right by my high school. So I went to school on 67th in Amsterdam.
Wow.
Crazy. So fun. But so you're launching this brand. What brought you and your brothers together to come up with the whole concept of Equinox?
First of all, we all lived on the Upper West Side, and we all were doing we were doing businesses. I was working with Longcomb,
Hmm.
and I was started kind of in their executive program and things like that. And I did a little bit of everything. I don't know. I was always the girl that could wear a lot of different hats. Um, and then my brothers were doing construction and things like that. They were really entrepreneurs. They had a couple little businesses, and they were doing it. We were living on 69th and Broadway, and we were like complaining, like, oh my God, like there's no gym around here. Like, oh my God, it's awful. So I was literally going over to the Vertical Club, and then sometimes I would go down to a Gold's Gym. Like when I would go into these times where I wanted to like bodybuild really hard, like that was part of my shtick. And then we were taking classes at Jeff Martin's studio, but there was nothing that had it all. And we complained a lot, at first. It was like, someone needs to open a great facility so people like us, and then we would be with all of our friends, and everybody would be saying that, like, someone needs to open up a great like place, someone needs to open a great gym, like, well, um we didn't even have to do any market testing because we were it.
Right.
Us and our friends already, we knew what we wanted. Anyway, we had an opportunity to open up our first gym outside of New York, and we did that. and that went well. And then, Equinox came about a year and a half after that. It took us about, a year and a half to get the whole concept because it was a much different concept. Yeah. And then, the rest.
And then there you are. You're competing with, there's a million bars on the Upper West Side, but there were no gyms. So that's,
There were no gyms.
there were no gyms.
Were gyms, but there wasn't a whole thing like we had. Like, wasn't a place that looked good and felt good and had the right vibe and had classes and had a great weight area and had personal trainers and had massage and just had everything. Like, there wasn't anything like that up on the Upper West Side at all. And then it was also cool. Like, some of the
Mm.
places that were at the time were like, you'd walk in and they were brown and they
Oh
had
yeah.
thing, and men were walking around with like their socks that they wear with their suits with barefoot or sneakers. Like, it just was vibeless. I'm not going to name but there was a place that I would go to when I was working on, at Saks and some of the other stores. And you would go in there and it was just like, oh, this is not motivating. This is not inspiring to watch like these people walking around in socks and just the music that you would hear in a dentist's office. It was
Right.
just
Like, yeah.
awful.
Elevator music.
Elevator. It was just
Yeah.
awful. It was like, no, this can't be like, you know, um,
Got to create a different vibe. And honestly, the single thread through all of these podcast interviews so far has been that people will optimize their health when they're either forced to or they want to. And so
mhm.
you created a vibe to make people want to leave
Yeah,
the bar and go
yeah,
to the gym instead.
yeah,
Focus
yeah.
on their health, optimize their health through exercise, through movement, and also through community, because you didn't just create a place to go and optimize your physical body. You created a community, which is so important for your emotional
I
optimization.
love I love that you're pointing that out because we didn't do that. Like, it wasn't like today, like community belonging, all of that is very intentional. People are doing that. They're baking that into their branding, which is amazing because we need it. We didn't do that at that time, but maybe the fact that we were siblings, so
Right.
we already had that feeling of family, and our sisters worked with us as well. So if you went into the pro shop, you had the two sisters, and they were so outgoing and so friendly. So you automatically had this feeling of like, oh, I'm part of the family, especially the people that first, like the first couple hundred that signed up, they're like, oh, I'm in the inn, I'm in the family, so it was just this feeling of like being comfortable and belonging and being part of community. But the thing that was really amazing was a couple years later, people said, you know what I love that Equinox did? It transformed our neighborhood. Because before, people said, the thing that was always amazing about the Upper West Side is they had these little wonderful like grocery stores. You had Citarella that
Yep.
you would go to for all your fish and things like that. And then you would
Yep.
go to Fairway and get all your
Oh,
produce and things like that. And then people would go to like Isabella's and eat at Isabella's, and they would go to some of these other places. They said, but we never knew each other. Like, you would never, and they said once Equinox opened, all of a sudden you go into Cinderella's and you would start talking to people. It's like because you knew them from Equinox, and then you'd be at Fairway, and then you would be walking in the neighborhood. It was like all of a sudden, I live in a real neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood that knows each other. And it was all from Equinox. And I remember when people told me that story, I was like, oh my God, I love this. Because I know how alone you could feel in New York. Like, unlike you, most people are not born and raised in New York City. They come here after college, and they're leaving their families, and they're leaving all their best friends, and you're leaving, and then it's not always easy to feel like you're in a neighborhood and in a community where you really know people.
right.
So that really always touched my heart. I mean, today it's a little different because we have these, years ago we used to buy our coffee at a deli. So
Right.
you bought your coffee at the deli and you were out of there. Like it was 2 minutes. Like nobody was hanging out in the deli to start talking to each other. But today it's different because you go, to Blue Bottle or you go to Phil's Coffee and you hang out and everybody in your neighborhood goes, right?
Right.
So I think we were the first. Like we were
Yeah.
really the first to really kind of help transform a community. And that I always loved too.
And you did it at exactly the right time. Transforming a community and creating a community in New York City is almost an impossible feat. And you did it right before 9/11. And,
I
you
know
know,
we did it, but a year
yeah,
before 9/11,
yeah, year before 9/11.
a decade before 9/11.
Yeah, a while before 9/11. And what I've heard about New Yorkers, and I lived through it too, but as a younger person, the perspective of New Yorkers pre and post 9/11 is that we were these kind of like hard jerks that didn't want to talk to each other and just walk by each other,
Right.
on the street and not even look up from our shoes to say like a quick hello or flash someone a smile or, anything friendly. And then after 9/11, I feel like New Yorkers really came together and and I actually joined Equinox Gym after 9/11 and I went to the one on the Upper East Side because that was the closest one to me
63rd or
on
84th?
63rd.
Oh,
Yeah, right
yeah.
by the tram.
Hmm.
And my mom and I would go there and we had such an amazing community of people and the vibe kept shifting.
Mm.
It was like you created this vibe and it was just so attractive and it was so magnetic that anyone that we met was like this high energy, high frequency being. And so you created that, which is such an incredible feat
Yeah,
to
we
create.
definitely trailblazed things. Like I remember bringing in this guru. At the time, I had a guru and I went to India with him and I brought him in. And we in those days we didn't have social media, so we would put signs up all over, come and be in the presence of the guru and have darshan, which is like good energy brought to you. And I remember people thinking I was crazy, like she's crazy. And but you know what? They came. Like I'll never forget that room was packed, just
Right?
totally packed with about 200 people all sitting on the floor. They didn't even know what they were coming to, but they trusted.
Right.
Like there was a trust in us that it might be a little bit out there, but you know what? I'm going to go. And that's another part of building community is bringing people on a journey that they would have never maybe gone on before. And so you
Definitely.
expose them, you expand. Like I always say, expand your heart, expand your soul, you
Yeah.
know, but you need to be around people and brands and things like that that help guide you to
Right.
expand your soul, to expand your spirit, to expand your thinking, right?
A
For
lot.
me, it wasn't all about working out. It wasn't just exercise, exercise, exercise. Like it was so much more. Like I used to say, to be healthy, I mean healthy, not fit. You can
Mm,
be incredibly fit and not be healthy. And I
correct.
see that more and more, by the way, in the world today. I see it even worse today because now that social media has everybody posting these hard workouts and everybody just wanting to be ripped and put corsets on, they're going to be so tight that we're going to literally strangle your organs, like so there's like this mentality. But I always would say you have to be spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, energetically healthy, and physically healthy.
Yeah.
That is where health lives. That is where being spiritful, being soulful lives. Like, and that's when you're like, I'm alive. Like, I'm alive. Like, when you're just feeling so alive and full of enthusiasm. And I love the word enthusiasm, Lindsay. Unlike passion means with suffering, the root of the word, but
Mm,
enthusiasm means with spirit. So when
yes.
you're living in enthusiasm, you're living with spirit. Like
Mm,
that's what I like to teach people. Like to me, that is my biggest biohack. My biggest biohack is how I have access to being full of spirit and joy every day,
that's
because that's how I stay healthy.
yeah.
Because as soon as that starts dimming, I don't care. how much keto you're eating. I don't care how many, infrared saunas, how many plunge, how much red therapy you're doing. At the end of the day, if you're not filled with joy and enthusiasm and spirit, your body is not, your mind, your soul is not gonna, it's not gonna be at its best.
I love that.
It's the access that I want people to understand is how to have access to your joy,
Yeah.
your real. And the last week I was out in Bachelor Golf. And I love it. I went snowboarding with my sister. It was amazing. And I say I'm a professional beginner. I've been snowboarding for 19 years. I love I love the greens and the blues. And I'm like, my sister's like, you're so good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional beginner. Like, don't put me on the blocks. Just let me ride up there and feel so good. And I was like feeling so good. And I went afterwards and I sat at the fire, and my sister was running an error or something. I was with my little dog and I was sitting there, and there was men on one side and women on the other, and they were all together. And I'm listening because I eavesdrop all the time. I was listening to the conversations and I'm just sitting there, and the men are sitting there talking about their business, the fishing trips that they're going to be going on next week or within a couple weeks, and basically just talking about that. And I'm like, cool. The women are sitting there and lamenting and complaining about,
Mm,
I haven't been able to take off any of this weight since the holidays. And oh my God, my circles are getting so bad and my hair is getting so thin, and just sitting there complaining and complaining about their physical bodies. And
mm.
by the way, all of these women look pretty damn good.
I'm sure.
And to be honest, they look better than the men.
Right.
Why? Why are women, why are we so conditioned to make our worth, to make everything like our worth is our beauty, is our waist size, is our jean size? Like we have to change this conversation. Like
Absolutely.
we have to change it. Like we're amazing. We have to love ourselves. We have to love our body. Hey, look, it's going to change a little. Theirs is changing too. Trust me. It's going to change a little. And it's okay. Like celebrate it. Like like it's okay to desire to be fitter, to be leaner, to be stronger. Like, but first start with like loving. I love my body. I'm so grateful for this body. Like
Right.
when we live in that level and that frequency and that vibration, man, like we're unstoppable.
Yeah.
Stoppable, you know?
And it's infectious. Everybody around us feels the energy. They feel the joy. Our
Right.
children pick up on it because they're little sponges. I remember thinking, like when I'm going through my divorce, I have these highs and these lows, and I'm not always the happiest mommy. And some days I'm super cranky. And then I was also going through a lot of health transitions, double diagnosed with autoimmune condition, taking care of a chronically ill child, trying to continue to work in tech, which wasn't working, and doing all of these things. And I forgot about one really important thing, which is faith. I forgot about faith. I was so consumed by my fear that I was going to be sick. And that just wore on my body. And then it created this negative downward spiral. And I always talked about, well, I'm passionate about this and I'm passionate about that. But that was such a great distinction that you shared because I never really felt that true joy until recently. I never felt the true joy until I really let go of all of the fear. And I
Right.
replaced it with my faith, with prayer and meditation every morning, with ecstatic dance and exercise, like we're gonna get to and have a little taste of with Move Joy, which is your new endeavor, and it's absolutely freaking amazing. I absolutely love it. But when you are filled with joy and you're filled with faith, you radiate it out to everyone. Like I'm just watching you like doing all of these movements and I'm feeling your energy. And I'm so grateful for people like you in the world who are not just keeping it to yourself. Thank you for sharing it with everyone else in the form of these businesses that are intended to create that kind of like drop in the drop in the water. You're creating you're almost like tossing a boulder into a lake and creating this amazing ripple effect of beautiful energy and joy that is going to elevate all of us to be better, to optimize our everything.
It's interesting that you say that because I was like a little apprehensive about starting my own brand. I was just
Really?
like, "Oh, I don't know. Do I really want to do that over again? I know what it takes, and I'm getting older. Let one of the younger people do this." And but then I was kind of like waiting. I'm like, there's a little white space here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's a little white space of even like the other day I did an interview and the woman said to me, Lavinia, you're the bridge. You're like a really amazing bridge to a lot of things. And I really, when I sat and I thought about it, I was like, she's really right. Because even when I offered that at Equinox so many years ago, the guru coming in, that was I was planting a seed and exposing people to something that they'd never seen before. Most of them have never experienced that before, and many of them went on to then
Right.
to just have a more spiritual life like that, to understand what the law of attraction was like, to understand what manifestation looked like, to understand that your thoughts, your words, your feelings, your actions create your life. Like all of a sudden, like I bridge them into some personal development. I bridge them into spirituality. And even with movement now, my movement isn't about exercising. It's
Right.
really about releasing the energy.
Right.
We're just made up of these little molecules of energy, right? And so in the course of a day, on any given day, we have about 2,000 different emotions that hit us. 2,000 different emotions. You feel, you're this, you're that, and from from what I understand through the research is that 80% of those are negative.
I think at least,
Right.
especially these
I
days with
wanted to
every,
say, I think it's actually more like 88%, but
yeah. No,
it's
I think it's much higher than that. Yeah. And it's too bad.
yeah, because it's like shame, worry, fear, all the things you talk about, all the not enoughs, not being pretty enough, not young enough, not rich enough, not beautiful enough, whatever it is, all the not enoughs that we're constantly being hit with, not smart enough. Um, so all of those emotions have an energy attached to it. And we have to know how to release that energy because
Right.
all of that lives on our body. And before you know it, you have a stiff neck and you have a pain in your lower back and you have intestinal issues and then you're having constipation or you're having the run. Like all these stuff is happening and it's all emotional, you know. And also, 75% of all autoimmune is women.
Yeah.
75% of all autoimmune disease is women. And a lot of the research is showing that the root cause of that is emotional.
Right.
There's emotional disturbances, right? So, more than ever, we have to know how to be mindful to release this.
Mm.
We could call it stress, but the stress is usually some kind of an emotion that causes the stress, right? So when you can start releasing the energy, that doesn't mean you're going to release the trauma. I'm not here to release trauma. I'm not a trauma therapist, but you can release the energy of the trauma for sure.
Right. And
You
make
know?
yourself feel better in that moment. It's
Exactly.
it's all about the moment to moment choice. It's like going to the ice cream shop. Would you like chocolate or vanilla? Would you like sad or would you like joyful? Right?
Right.
You get to
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
We have free will. God gave us free will, and we have the right to choose how we want to feel.
Right. And the truth of it is, we don't need to justify it.
Right?
And
Absolutely.
why do you want vanilla? Well, I want vanilla because it tastes good. Why do you want chocolate? I want chocolate because I want chocolate. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to justify, I feel happy. And
Right.
sometimes we have to fake it to make it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to, you know, yeah, just be like, you have to immerse yourself. You have to embody. That's why I love movement because we can move the energy.
Right.
Like we can move the energy. Like movement, I always say movement is life and life is movement.
Mm.
One thing I know for sure, when we're dead, we're not going to be breathing, we're not going to be moving. But until then, learn to move your body. Like every single organ in our
Mm.
body is connected to our spine. Every
It,
organ.
it
So we
is.
have to learn how to move our spine. You have to love your spine. That spine is magic. That
Right.
cerebral fluid that runs in our spine, it does so much for us. It nourishes all of our discs. We have to learn how to move our spine in a way that feels good. So everything I do feels good. I've studied the meridians for a very long time on the body. So all the exercises I do, it's about opening up the meridians. So people, I don't even explain this. We just do it and they go, "Oh, I feel so good. I feel so good," because the way this is built is to actually feel good. It's to open up, to get the chi moving in the body, to get the lymphatic, to get the heart moving, to get the blood pumping, to get the circulatory system working, to get the organs starting, we
To
tap it.
operate. Yeah, you're getting your digestive function moving. Everything is lighting up with Move Joy.
Yeah.
And I did my first Move Joy session on Thanksgiving morning. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
hosting
With
that
your,
one?
right?
Yep, exactly. And I had my three daughters behind me, like, Mom, what the heck are you doing? Who is that lady on camera? And then all of a sudden I look behind me and I'm like, oh, I've got a couple of them doing it with me because it was so infectious in my household. And I didn't have to have coffee that whole day. I hosted my family for Thanksgiving dinner and I had energy left over at the end of the night. I couldn't believe it. Just from doing one Move Joy class, I felt so good and so happy all day. It
I love
was
it.
the best way to start my day. And you
People
taught me
ask
some
me
new
all the
moves.
time. They
Yeah.
say to me all the time, "What are you on?" Like, Lavinia,
Yeah.
what, like, you have so much energy. And I'm like, I don't do caffeine at all. You
Same.
know, don't do I haven't taken so much as an Advil in 15 years.
Wow.
I really, I do homeopathy. I do supplementation. I actually even do a lot less than I was doing. I used to like be the person that was going and getting vitamin drips every week. And I was getting all these different B12 shots and stuff. I don't even need it now. You
Wow.
know, I'm on a good program. I mean, look, I'm on an amazing program. I love my homeopathist. I mean, she's the person I call is when anything happens. But the truth of it is I like even last week I took a pretty wicked fall on the mountain and I literally I pulled over to the side and I started doing breath work and shaking to get the energy off my body because I didn't want that fall to be
Right.
in my nervous system.
Right.
And afterwards, I did a little research and I was like, I mean, that was my instincts to do that.
Right.
And then when I started doing some research, I realized that all animals do that.
They
When
do.
they some kind of an incident happen, an attack or something they shake. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons that they shake, if they don't shake, 80% of the animals, if they don't do some kind of shaking, within 3 days, they'll actually die.
Wow.
So I thought when I saw that after I took that fall, and I had a helmet on and had protection gear on, but still it was like I felt my insides getting jolted.
Yeah.
I could feel it, and I thought, no, I got to shake this off. I got to shake this off, and I pulled over to the side and I started doing the breath work, and I'm shaking it off, and I'm releasing the energy of the fall.
Right.
Um, and these are the kind of tools we want to teach people. Like we
Now, I
teach you.
know that it's kind of hard to teach on a podcast. We are going to release the video of this too, but
Okay,
do you
great.
mind spending like a couple of minutes kind of just showing us how you do some of these movements? Because I know that I was super interested when I first heard about it, and I would love to do it along with you because I need to get my energy up today too.
Kick my little shoes off here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, first thing we would always do is we always do a grateful and we say, I am grateful for. And we inhale and take a big deep breath and we exhale, ah, and you really use your voice like, ah, let it go.
Ah.
a lot of energy in our throat chakra, right? So our thyroid is, and then we do another. I am so grateful for it. And really, I always say you want to feel it, like visceralize the gratefulness in every cell in your body. I am grateful for it. Inhale.
And so you're sweeping your arms up, you're sweeping them down,
And then when you come, you just let it go.
and then you're shaking your arms.
Exactly. And then we would just sort of, I'd like to go like this, inhale, and we open the hands all the way. In the webs of our fingers, we hold a lot of trauma in there. So
Really?
open them up. So you go inhale, ha, ha, ha. Big inhale through the nose, and then you go ha, 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 ha,
Ah,
ha, ha. And then you go inhale, inhale more,
mm.
inhale more. Then we hold
And
our
so you're
breath 10
pushing
seconds.
your arms up, reaching towards the sky, and then exhaling and bringing your
Breath,
arms down.
hold your breath. Then we do a big exhale.
Mm.
We hold the breath out for 10 seconds. Then we hold our breath. You get a little high when you hold your breath, and then you go, huh. So that's like our opening, right?
Wow.
And then we do something that we call hops. Okay, so we hop up and down, and we do this for a minute, and you just really let everything go, right? You let your traps go. You open your jaw.
Yeah, a lot of us keep tension in our jaw. We wear our shoulders as earrings. We gotta let those shoulders fall.
And you just let everything really go. Make sound. Release, release your wrists, your fingers, that thumb that gets a lot of work. So
And you're
we do,
shaking it all out, right? You're shaking everything out, getting rid of that
and then we do
energy,
drops. And we just go like this and and we
swinging
rock
your arms, bending your knees.
fast. And you take a big inhale, big exhale, ha.
Ah,
All right.
ah.
And then we go, and you just take a second and you just like feel it. Like I can feel the energy moving already. And then I like to lean over here and come back. And now I twist that waist because the spine
Fine.
moves 6 directions, front and back, side and side, and twist and twist. So you really want to get that spine moving. So you go here, just go inhale, exhale.
And are you bending your knees so that you're protecting your back?
Yeah, of
You're
course we'll do this.
bending your knees, protecting your lower back, twisting your spine.
Rotate your abs. So I always say, put your corset on. So your corset, you bring your rib cage in, you pull your belly button into your spine, you bend your knees, and then you lean over.
Mm-hmm.
Hands behind your head if you can do that. And then you just go side to side. Inhale, exhale, ha. Inhale, exhale. If you can go faster. Ha, 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 ha. And the breath work is very, very important, right? So,
So,
and then
so breath is helping to stimulate all of the cells in your body, right? It's oxygenating, it's giving your cells fuel.
yeah, so we do this, and then we do a lot of shoulders,
So you're
shoulder,
rolling your shoulders, you're clapping your hands, you're moving your spine, twisting.
twist, yeah. And then we tap. We do a lot of tapping. We release the
And this
energy. Tap.
this
We
can help with lymphatic drainage, with
tap.
fascia release.
I like to brush the energy off. I
Mm,
brush unspoken words, unresolved conflicts. Every time we've suppressed our feelings to
mm.
please someone else. So we release all the energy, right? We release, So it's kind of like that whole release section. In the
Wow.
class, we do about 15 to 18 minutes, but on my app, I literally have a 3-minute release. So if you get off the phone with a really uncomfortable conversation,
Right.
just put on the app and do 3 minutes of releasing the energy.
Really?
You can use the release for so many things.
Wow.
Before getting on a call, when like I have a call coming after this, and it's going to be a little bit spicy because the person, I'm not going to be giving them what they want. And so I will literally do 3 minutes of move joy to get myself calmed down,
Mm.
you know. So I
But
use
it's good for arguments with family or, business meetings, like you said, or anything, honestly.
yeah. No, as soon as you, I mean, I've been in meetings where I've excused myself to go to the restroom and I'm in the restroom doing this, releasing the energy.
Work.
Because I could, oh my God, because I could literally,
Oh, sorry. We're gonna take a quick
sorry,
break. That's okay.
I thought it was unplugged. And I'm going to unplug it because, um, yeah, you want to have this on your toolbox so that you can, during, it's just filling your toolbox up so that when something is happening, like I said, like I will excuse myself when I feel myself getting tense at a meeting, so to calm myself down, because when you're in these business meetings, you don't want to lose your cool.
No.
You don't want to get your breathing to stop, then you can't think clearly. So
Yeah.
I just say, excuse me, I need to use the restroom. I go in the restroom, I move the energy out, I release the energy, and then I go in there and I'm ready to,
And then you come back with clarity and
yeah,
with openness to receive. And you know what? Sometimes I've noticed when I'm able to do that, and it hasn't been often in my career. When I was working in tech, I never did that because I didn't have that tool in my toolbox at the time. But I noticed when I did write down, my intentions for the meeting before I go into the meeting and I cleared my energy and I felt really good going into a meeting, I could actually feel the shift. So if I went into a meeting with somebody who I knew wasn't ready to buy, or it was going to be a much harder sell or a much harder activation or implementation, if I prepared beforehand and was energetically sound and peaceful and like ready and open, it would actually shift their energy too. It's not just about me, it's also about what kind of space am I creating for this meeting to be the most productive meeting it could possibly be,
right,
and to get the outcomes for everyone that,
right.
that they want. And you're creating these outcomes and this energy for people to have that main biohacking tool in their toolbox, which is joy.
Yeah, I mean, I did go through a little bit of that a dark period around COVID for a couple
Mhm.
years. And I mean, I went through a divorce and I went through like a really very intense family situation. And then I had a situation with my financial person who I'd been with for many years. And I saw that there were some unscrupulous things happening. So it's just one thing after another. And I just got in a funk.
Yeah.
Like I was in a funk. Like I just felt like I was in a black cloud and everything I was normally doing wasn't really getting me out of it. And I remember my internist said, maybe you should think about like a little bit of an antidepressant. And I thought, I don't poo-poo that. I mean, it's there and it's wonderful, but I just kind of felt like, especially being a person who really doesn't take medicine, I didn't really feel like that was right for me. And I thought, what, let me have it a couple more months and let me see if I can't figure this out.
Hmm.
The truth of it is, one day I was sitting and I literally heard, I know this sounds crazy, it's going to sound a little woo-woo, but I literally heard God say, move. And at
Hmm.
first I thought he wanted me to move out of my house.
Sell your house.
Out of my house, like, because they say when you move like out of your house, like it changes the karma. And I'm like, oh, I'm not really ready to move out. I'm like having a conversation outside. I'm not really ready to move out of my house. Like I love it here. Um, and then the next day I hear move again. And this time I just got up and I started doing the breath work with the movement and affirmations, which at the time really was I was just praying. I was just like praying. That's what I was affirming. I was like in prayer. And then slowly I kept doing that every day. And about within 6 weeks to 2 months, I felt like a different person.
Mm.
I felt like the old Lavinia was back. And I
Wow.
realized like, whoa, I got rid of this. I like this layer of emotion, the sadness, this like disbelief, this feeling of like, this is unimaginable. It was just that energy was just keeping me so heavy. And it was like it lifted it. It just, the energy lifted. Now, that didn't change the situation, but it certainly, it made me, it was such a big part of my healing. I don't care what anybody says, you have to feel it to heal it. You
Right.
have to feel it to heal it and then move it. You
Right.
know, you can still be moving the energy while you're going through the healing process. So that is really how it started. And then I was already teaching an online course, but it was really very much like a boot camp. It was very like boot campy, like just move, move, move. And I started incorporating this. And what I was noticing, the women liked it better. They were coming more often.
Uh,
They, like before, they'd be like, whoa, that was really hard. Sometimes I would watch them shut their cameras off, which made me think they were probably going into the kitchen and getting coffee or something. And what I was noticing when I started to do this, nobody turned their camera off. Everybody stayed. They were coming more often and they liked it. And I was
right.
like, and then at a mastermind, one of the women pulled me aside and said, you are really onto something here. Like,
Yeah.
you need to build this into a brand. I was like, no, 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 no. Not going to happen. I know what it takes to build a brand. I've been there, I've done it, and I've helped other people do it. I don't know if I'm up for that. And I really kind of walked away with, but thank you. Thank you for believing in that I created something that was nice. And then I couldn't get it out of my mind.
Mm.
It just kept ruminating and going.
Planted the seed in your head.
I really planted a very big
Yeah.
seed. And then I started talking to people I know that are strategists, and I had them do some deep diving into the space. And then I realized, so when they came back to me, they're like, wow, like there's white space here. That's big. And
Right.
nobody's really talking. When you think about it, Lindsay, 72% of our country is deconditioned, overweight, or obese.
Yep.
72%.
Yep.
And most of the fitness industry, other than little classes here and there, but overall, they all are going after the same 28%. Like the Equinoxes and the Soul Cycles and the Barry's boot camps and the Orange Theory, they're all going into the same 28 that are still working out and working out. But there's really nobody globally really talking to this other group,
Right.
and
Right.
because they have so much shame. There is so much shame around, research shows this information that I got shows that any of those people who are overweight, obese, or, you know, really out of shape, when they see the word exercise, fitness, workout, train, they won't even open up an email.
Wow.
Die, because they have tried anywhere from 4 times to 6 times. They bought programs or did something and failed. So the last thing they want to do is sign up for something else that they're going to fail and make them feel really bad again.
Right.
That's
And
what I
and
do.
shame is the lowest vibration of all feelings.
Lowest. So
Lowest
everybody
vibration.
avoid that as much as possible.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm the perfect person because I say, I don't care if you ate a bucket of fried chicken last night. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to, there's no shame that we have no shame. You're going to still move and you're going to laugh and you're going to move your body and you're still going to celebrate you and celebrate your beauty and celebrate that you can move. And I have a class that I teach on the chair that we can do this sitting for the people that have a harder time walking. Like I feel so passionate about getting everybody to move. Like that is, I feel like to move, to feel joy, to access joy,
Right.
like every different people have their thing, like Ariana is all about like, you have to sleep. Sleep
Right.
is your key, and that's amazing. And
Right.
somebody else has about this. Like for me, it's all about accessing joy into your body. Like that's your superpower, that's your biohack. When you could do it, it actually makes your cells healthier when you're
Right.
feeling that. And like you said, it's contagious.
It is.
Everybody wants to be with you. All of a sudden, it's like you walk into a room, it's like, who is she? I need to know her,
Right.
you know. And that feels good. That feels really good to have that connection with humans. you
Right.
know?
Think about, the percentage of people. You talked about 72% obesity rates. That's out of control high. But think about the other statistics. When you think about like women, you think about loneliness,
Yeah.
and you think about hormone shifts and going through perimenopause or menopause, and these things feel so out of our control at times, but they're actually well within our control, because a lot of times it's just shifting our energy, it's shifting our
Exactly.
perspective, and it's getting rid of all of that gunk that's built up time after time. Draining your lymphatic system is so important, like, and getting it going, getting your digestive system going. So this is like the beginning, end, and middle for you in terms of getting people to move. Like, this is where you've
Yeah,
dedicated
it's like
life.
getting
God
you to
told
move.
you to do this.
It's getting you to move, like it's getting you to move your behavioral patterns.
Right.
It's not just your body. Like we have to move our limiting beliefs. We have to move our thoughts. We have to, you know, like
Move out of the bar and get into the gym originally. And
or move out of like putting your head down and complaining. Move out of complaining. Move out of gossiping. Like move out of doing things that are low vibration, you
right.
know, to become conscious. It's really about consciousness and joy,
Right.
right? And my access to it is through movement, but it's really about consciousness and joy. And like I said, my access is through movement. Like that's, what, I've been dancing since I'm 4 years old. And dance and movement has really been my happy place forever. Like
Mm,
forever. It's how I could connect the most intimately to myself,
right.
the most intimately to myself. And the other thing about it is like nobody can ever take that from you.
They can't.
Feeling that you get when you're moving your body in a certain way and that you're releasing energy and you're feeling good, like there's not a pill for it. Sorry. And nobody can ever take that from you.
Yeah.
And
And you're right. You don't have to justify it either.
right.
You know, you choose to feel joy instead of feeling sadness. You let go of the yucky stuff, and you move your body so that you can feel joy. You give your cells access to it, and you let it in, and it
And
takes
we
over in a
give
beautiful way.
intention.
Yeah.
92% of women over the age of 38
Wow.
hate their body. So when they're moving and they're doing that soul cycle class, they're 9 times out of 10 doing it from a place of shame.
It
It
right.
like not liking their body. I got to get rid of the cellulite. I got to get rid of these
Right.
thunder thoughts. I got to get rid of this back fat. Like, oh my God, when I just listened to the women, like I was even sitting outside a Pilates studio a couple weeks ago, and I just had to walk away. I mean, first of all, it again, our beauty, our identity is not our dress size. Like
No.
it was just this feeling of like, ladies, we got to change this. Like I
We
get
gotta
it.
change it.
Yeah,
We
it
gotta
really
move on from that story. Move
yeah,
on from the
that
story of
limiting belief.
negative.
Like we have so much more to offer than if
Yeah.
we're a size two. I mean, personally, I don't even want to be a two. I look like a freaking skeleton and it would age me. Like there wasn't anything about that, that feels right. And
And
when I,
back to your point earlier, it doesn't actually matter. My dad used to force us to eat because we would get letters home that we were too skinny. I've always been a skinny person. I have tiny little bones. I've been a 0 or a 2 my whole life, and I was terribly unhealthy. It didn't matter what I looked like. I was rotten on the inside. I had massive autoimmune disease. My gut was a mess. I was miserable taking antidepressants. Honestly, it's like, who cares what you look like? Care what you feel like. Care about the people that are inspiring you around you. And yes, you can optimize your physical appearance. You'll actually glow more
right.
when you have joy. You
And a
do. Like you're
smile,
glowing.
I had a spiritual teacher that used to say, a smile is the cheapest way to be cute. So learn to like smile and love your smile. Like
I
the
love
other
it.
day, somebody said to me, I sent her a picture because she was doing this funny little thing. And she's like, I need a picture of you without a smile. Say, not gonna happen.
Yep.
I said, not gonna happen. I like my face better when I smile. So I'm not into that thing. I don't
Yeah.
do that. Like it's not my look. It's not
Zoolander, Blue Steel,
that
you know,
whole like
posed.
whatever thing. No, my look is my smile because when I smile, it sends a message to the brain that says I'm happy, I'm good. It makes me feel good, and it's a superpower. It's a
It is.
superpower.
And it makes other people feel good too. You are radiant, you are beautiful, you're magnetic, you're filled with joy and purpose, and also generosity. I know that you are offering listeners of this podcast a free trial of Move Joy, which is amazing. So I will provide that link in the notes of this podcast, but they can go to it's move.joy is the website.
It's movejoy.life.
Movejoy.life. That is
Yeah.
so beautiful. Yeah, so if you go to movejoy.life, you can check it out. You can follow MoveJoy on Instagram and you can follow Lavinia and you can get access to this in 3 minutes or less from what Lavinia has told us on her amazing app that she's created. And I want to just thank you for not only agreeing to share your story and also share your amazing, positive, beautiful, joyful energy with us today. But I also want to thank you for, I'm sure you wanted to give up many times in your career and then also during the dark period throughout COVID. Thank you for not giving up. A lot of women and a lot of men who are listening to this podcast are probably in a place where they have to make a choice if they give up on something. Maybe it's their purpose, maybe it's their family, maybe it's, themselves. And I'm just so grateful that you didn't give up on yourself or on your vision for your life. And I'm so glad that God talked you into moving.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. I received that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're such a beautiful human, and I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so thankful to for Move Joy and this movement that you're creating. So everybody get on the bus, start dancing, start moving.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Optimize We. We loved having you along for the ride. Now, if you want to dive deeper into our guests' insights, be sure to follow them on their socials because trust us, it's worth it. And don't forget to connect with us either. We're at wellnesseternal_. Stay updated, join the conversation, and be a part of the growing community. Until next time, stay inspired, stay optimizing, and we'll catch you in the next episode.